You are now listening to the Basic and Boujie podcast.
Kelly Meerbott is a transformational leadership and business coach. She has revolutionized America's top executives and military leaders' personal and professional lives and handcrafted profitable business strategies for thousands of corporations worldwide.
And we're live. And we have a guest.
Favorite episodes.
Yes.
And I want to say, even before they introduce me, make sure you review, subscribe, and share, because these two ladies are freaking phenomenal. And if they're not reaching far and wide, then that's a mistake and that's a missed opportunity. There you go.
You better
Talk about it.
talk about it.
And again, we forget our drink of choice.
Damn, no couth.
Oh my
All right.
gosh.
So we've been sipping.
We've been.
So this was Miss Kelly's drink of choice. Vodka. What is it? A vodka soda with a splash of lime.
Yes.
like
So
it.
it's basic low-key bougie, I think. Because if you up the level of vodka, then it
depends.
elevates it,
depends on the
right?
vodka.
But it's basic because it's vodka soda.
I feel like sometimes
soda.
we use basic, but it's like basic because it's a classic.
Right, right.
But then you showed up looking bougie. So you
Well, I
got
had
you just
to.
hit it on the head. Like,
I
you just hit
had
every
to.
point.
I'm all about a theme, and I love you two so much, and I'm so excited for your podcast that I had to show enthusiasm through not only how I showed up, but the gifts I gave you too.
And she brought
She brought gifts.
Of course,
guests that bring gifts.
Pay
We love
attention.
it.
Pay attention.
Take notes.
That's
Get
right.
your notebook.
Yes.
Take notes.
Well, Irene would spank me. Literally,
Right.
I'm 45. My mother's almost. Well, I'm not going to tell you her age because she.
How dare
spanked
you?
me through
Right.
the airwaves.
You better not.
But she would be like, "Don't you ever show up anywhere without a gift." So
You don't
I
show
always
up
kind of
empty-handed.
think about, the recipient and what they would love, and I hope you love it.
I love it.
I love it.
Good,
Yes.
because
Much appreciate it. You
yeah.
did good, Irene. You did good.
Yes. Well, thanks. Thanks, mommy.
All
All
right.
right.
So this is Miss Kelly. First of all, we met because we had the opportunity to be on your podcast.
Yes.
So thank you for that.
Oh my God, I love you too, and I'm glad I
just-
finally
just
know how to
like a
pronounce your
connection.
name after 6 years. I was so
Joss.
embarrassed. I was like, seriously? I've been mispronouncing it for so long, and now I know it. Joss. So
Okay.
it's embarrassing. No. So
I get it all the
You're so
time.
used
and
to
I'm
it.
just- it doesn't even click sometimes if
Just like,
someone's saying it
whatever.
wrong.
But see, so I heard a quote, and this is Dale Carnegie quote, so we'll give a nod to an old white guy once, that the sound of somebody's name is the most beautiful sound to them in the world. And for me to miss that opportunity to kind of give you the most beautiful sound you've ever heard really kind of breaks my heart, because we've sat with these amazing lunches and had these great conversations, which frankly, I think the three of us could rule the world if we really put our minds to it. And the fact that I had that missed opportunity with you kind of bums me out a little bit. But that's on me. That's not on you. That's on me.
And now you fixed it, and now you're
Yes.
here.
Yes.
So look at that.
Yes. And we're drinking my basic bougie vodka soda with lime.
Classic.
Yes.
Go ahead, Joss. I feel like
Well,
you have your notes
I
ready.
had questions only to I didn't want to make this a how do you work your not 9 to 5, right? I didn't want to do that. I wanted it to be organic and
Sure.
just let the conversation flow. I did have some points that I wanted to touch on, and I think these came to me because of we need to be more social on our
Right.
platform. So just
Sure.
getting some ideas from you and
Yeah.
your thoughts and all that stuff, and we can go into whatever tangents you want to.
Yeah.
It's
Anything you gotta get
I'm
off your
here to support you too. So and your listenership. So if there are burning questions that you all have, let me help you answer them, because I'm almost 13 years. It'll be 13 years in January into this adventure, and if I can help you avoid pitfalls, avoid wasted time, wasted money, let me do that. Because I didn't have that. I didn't have a mentor who was like, don't go this way. I had people who were like, oh, you have that contact? Can you introduce me? And then they were like, bye-bye. You know what I mean? And I think that's, as an entrepreneur, that's the most important thing, is like, you need to know who loves you for you, doesn't want to change you at all, who wants something from you, and who you can trust.
Right.
Those are the first three things I would say. And really, if you have a honed gut like the three of us have, and I know you have that beautifully from your nursing, and you have that just from being you, that to really follow that inner wisdom, which is a whisper, you know, it's really, you got to tune into that whisper and ignore the noise and the shouting of your ego, because that's going to take you down another path that doesn't end in a good way often. So ask me anything.
I want to mess up your title. You're a leadership coach.
Yes.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been doing that?
So I would probably say my entire life, but I didn't have the language or the vocabulary for it. And let me give you an example. So like, I was in corporate for 11 years, and there was like a pattern where a new salesperson would get hired and all of a sudden stick them with Kelly, you know, and then they would shadow me, follow everything, and all of a sudden they're an executive. Or the CEO, who was way above my pay grade, would come in and talk about things and go, what do you think? And I would give them my opinion, and all of a sudden they're executing on that and coming back. And I was like, oh, wow, I was coaching, and I didn't really know that that's what I was doing until I got laid off in 2009. And I was like, I mean, it was literally the best and worst day of my life, because I was in Virginia and I had canvassed for Obama, right? And he gets inaugurated, and Aretha and her hat and everything. And it was the same day I got laid off. So it was like
you're
this
never
kind of
gonna
high and
forget.
low, right?
You will never forget that day.
Right. I'll never forget that day. And I was really kind of ticked off because I really wanted to see Aretha, and that was like my thing. And they pissed all over it. But at the same time, I was in this position where I was kind of autopiloting my way through, you know, kind of, I don't want to say calling it in, because I'm not one of those people. Like, if I give you 100%, that's my minimum. I'm one of those people that gives 120 always. And I get the sense that you two are like that. So, you know, I was at 100%, and I was sick. I was like throwing up every day before work, which became such a pattern that I would carry this little like kit in my bag.
Oh man.
And I would go to the same like individual bathroom, which was right off the parking lot, and I would throw up, and then I would brush my teeth, scope, and floss.
It became a part of your like your daily routine.
Right. And it didn't click until I was laid off. And I'm a big believer that life, the universe, whatever higher power you subscribe to, puts you in pain to get you to shift. And I would have never left. Yep. And what was really interesting was 2 years after the guy who laid me off, I wrote him a thank you note saying what I thought was the worst day of my life actually was the best.
I love that idea.
Because it propelled me into something that I was called to do. And this is what I was called to do. So
I love that idea.
Right.
I like it. I got a thank you note to write.
Well, and here's the other thing it did for me, because it wasn't really about the recipient. It's about clearing that space, because I was so ticked that I had that energy, you know, filling up my body. And it's like, that space could be better served to help you know, the world at large. And just by even putting that letter in the mailbox and just going, okay, I released it.
Yeah, you just like, it's like whether that person read it, didn't read it, they received it, you don't know, doesn't matter. You got it out of your system. It's done.
It's closed. Yeah. So you know, that's sort of how it started, and then it just has evolved from there. So
because literally yesterday my day started with 3 or 4 of my friends texting and calling me about different life mini crises that they were going through, and I jokingly said, I'm gonna get my life coach certification because I should be getting a check for this.
Yes.
And
please, I have a spot for you in our cohort. Come.
I've really been thinking about it, because I'm like,
should.
ever since I could remember, and I mean like teenage, before even being like adolescence, people constantly called me or gravitated towards me for any kind of advice. I don't know why. I'm still trying to figure it out as I go, but there's something about me that makes people want to tell me all of their business and just say, like, what do you think?
I can tell you what it is. It's your energy. You've got this beautiful, nurturing, empathic energy that makes people feel safe. I mean, I felt it immediately when I walked through your door, and like, makes sense to me that you're a healer, you're a nurse, you know. So, you know, coaching for me is a catalyst for healing.
Okay.
You know, so please, whatever you want, like, tell me, and I'll tell you.
About that.
I'll tell you which programs to take, which aren't great, what, you know, and I'll do whatever I can to help you make it happen.
I seriously considered it yesterday because most of you guys know at this point I'm like over bedside nursing, and we'll get into that. And when you're offering nurses for us, but I still have that nurturing calling, so I feel like I can fulfill that with like life coaching.
Well, do you want me to give you a practical example of how that manifests?
Absolutely.
So my mentor coach, Pat Matthews, who I absolutely adore, she started the Georgetown University executive coaching program. She's on the board of the ICF, which is the International Coaching Federation. She's former RN.
Oh, look at that.
You see where I'm going with
Look at
this?
that.
Yes.
Okay.
So anything I can do to help you, please let me know, because we need more
appreciate that.
healing in the world, and that's what coaches do. Is
Yeah.
they're a catalyst to guide people to healing, because my belief is that you all have the answers within yourselves. I'm not here to tell you what to do.
Exactly.
And to my military clients, I always say, I'm not here to go full metal jacket on your ass. Like, that's not my job. My job is to say, okay, my client had this situation. I don't know if it applies to you, but is there information you can take and apply to your life? And, you know, sometimes along our journey, where I walk alongside you, because that's what I do, is walk alongside you on your journey, we may encounter a fire burning in our path, and we're not going to go over it or around it. I'm going to say, Joss, grab my arm. We're going to walk through it together, and I'm going to show you how you're fireproof. And then we'll debrief it on the other side. Like, what did you learn? What can we do next time to course correct so it's a better experience for you?
Right.
You know, that's what a coach's job is. It's not to shame you or,
This
you
is
know.
what you gotta do it my way, it's not gonna work. No.
Right. Or follow these 7 steps
Right.
and you'll be a billionaire.
7 steps to success.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
You hear, thank you, Bella. There you
Right,
go.
look,
There's an
Bella
amen
knows
for
that
Bella.
sounds like some bullshit.
Yes, exactly. You know, and if you hear that, please, that is a sales tactic. Do not buy into that, because everybody's journey is different. And you can't follow 7 steps and become a billionaire. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
If it was that easy, we would all be billionaires.
That's
right.
right.
Yeah.
And going into space. Sorry. I had to get that in there.
Do you
Oh,
want
wait,
some shade?
I feel like that deserves.
So,
Alright.
So how do you fit, or what do you do for personal development? So I know that that's probably something that you suggest to your clients, but how do you fit it in, and what do you practice as forms of personal development?
yeah, so I always stay curious. Like, I say to my clients all the time, if somebody came, Jeff Bezos, and wrote me like a multi-million-dollar check and said, just sit in the classroom, that would be me. Like, I love to learn. I love to hear about different things that are outside of my realm of thinking and learn about it. So right now I've been really focused on trauma, because all of us have been experiencing some form of trauma. And so I've been really aligned with the Arizona Trauma Institute. In fact, I just signed up for another course called, it's like Healing Through the Body, Somatic Experiences. So I know, and you probably experienced this, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, where you hold trauma in the body, and how can we use the body to tap into healing the mind, soul, and spirit, right? So in terms of personal development, I really kind of have my finger on what's going on in the industry, whether it's diversity, equity, inclusion, and when George Floyd was murdered, you know, and woke a lot of us up, one of the things I thought about is like, what do I want to create from that space? And for me, it's about belonging, because if I say belonging to you, no matter how you manifest in life, people can kind of zero in on those moments in their lives where they felt like they didn't belong, right? So when I come into a space, I want people to feel like they belong to me no matter who they are and what their life choices are. Because I can tell you right now, at the base of who I am, I'm a humanist. So, you know, you want to go out and dance naked in the rain, go for it. Like, I'll help you, absolutely. Like, it's not my job to tell you that's not for you.
Right.
So in terms of personal development, I mean, I'm constantly reading, I'm looking at the people that are out there, but I try to really diversify the voices I listen to. Like, the one that's resonating with me right now is Sonia Renee Taylor, who wrote The Body Is Not an Apology. She's just, you know, she's a woman of color who's just incredible, you know, and because I don't want to hear one voice, because it becomes an echo chamber, and then your growth gets stunted. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, I'm constantly reading, constantly looking for inspiration, constantly looking for places where there's gaps and blind spots in my own learning, and how do I fill those? So
Stay proactive.
yeah, and stay ahead of it, because people are in trauma. I mean, I talked to you about my sister-in-law, who's a nurse, and shout out to all the nurses out there. I'm a huge fan of yours. And listen, I said this to Mel on Instagram, you know, if any of you need my help, I'm happy to gift my time to you, because you are so powerful, and you're the reason why we got as far as we did with this pandemic. And I know that a lot of nurses are forgotten, and I'm just telling you, I see you, I appreciate you, I love you, and I will give you my time, absolutely, because you did what you did for all of us, for humanity. So
Yes. Thank you for that. We're definitely going to get that information out there. But if you are struggling in nursing right now, and if you are struggling with burnout or experiencing burnout, Kelly is going to offer a 60-minute session.
Yep, 60-minute session.
So that you can start to deal with burnout. And we'll put all that information up there, as well as the only requirement is to just mention the Basic and Boujie podcast to the email to her.
That's right.
That's the only requirement.
Yep. And no questions asked, and everything you tell me is confidential.
It's
so
a safe space, and I really do appreciate that.
yeah, and to all those healthcare systems out there, please pay attention to your nurses, because they're the reasons why you're still existing.
Yeah.
Okay? Pay attention and thank them.
Don't let Grey's Anatomy fool you into thinking that the hospitals are run by only physicians.
Yeah,
That's
and
a
I'm talking
lie.
to you, Dr. Stephen Klasko. You and I are friends. Get it together.
Get it together.
I forget it forever.
Sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
Next question.
I have a very fun question.
Okay.
And I know we all, I'm assuming we all have this experience.
Okay.
So, how do you deal with professionally, right? Because your pages are professional pages.
Yes.
Your work, your biz. How do you deal with randos sliding into DMs?
Unprofessionally sliding into the DM.
Because you're trying to provide a service, and
Right.
the service they're looking for is not the one that
It's
you're
not on the list of services, sir.
And do you know where that LinkedIn is where I've gotten harassed the most?
Really?
Really?
Oh,
I feel like
yes.
that's like top tier, most professional platform.
Yeah.
That is an executive harassment.
It's
There's
I mean,
levels.
yes, it's American Express black card travel harassment. And my response is block delete. Block delete, because here's the thing, and I just went through this because my social media manager Bree and I have been really curating our experience and the experience people have with my social media. And the thing that woke me up was actually looking at Viola Davis's page, and she's got, of course, thousands of followers, but she follows like 500 people. And I thought to myself, immediately when I saw that number, I was like, she's curating who is coming into her space.
She
Well,
controls that.
if somebody comes at me with hate, and that happened recently, and it wasn't on social media, it was actually in my email, and I tried to I was reading this woman's email, and she was judging me from the first line, and basically said to me, that the 1619 project was garbage and needed to be thrown in the trash. But after that paragraph, she was like, but I'll listen to you and see where your mindset was before I make judgment. And I was like, dude, you made judgment
Too
in
late.
first sentence.
Like,
Done.
say hello.
Judgment done.
So I responded to her this way, and this was what made me make the decision to block delete. So I said to her, I get the sense that you've already passed judgment on me and my opinions, no need for further discussion. Now, if you or Josh came to me and said, hey, Kel, I'm not really sure where you're coming from. Could you help me understand? Like, then that opens the
Right.
that opens the
You can
floor
have
to
a conversation,
possibilities,
yes.
right?
Different energy
Which
that
I
the
am-
other person is coming to you.
Exactly.
I am always open to that, even if it's difficult, even if you say white people are evil, which we are. Like, we're evil to each other, we're evil to the world, and we need to heal ourselves. So I'm just gonna be honest about that. And I'll always be honest. But for her, I came back and said that, and she came back and said, I'm a coach too. And I was like, God,
Here we go.
God, forgive her.
Is she like a YouTube University coach, or like she actually got some credentials?
I don't know, but Bree, who's my amazing social media manager, and I have to give her a shout out. She's half Italian, half Puerto Rican, which I love that mix.
Shout out to Bree.
Yes, Bree, I love you, Bree. So she goes, Kelly, I looked at her website and she's really racist. I was like, she is? And she goes, yeah, because I don't think that way. Like, I don't start that way, right?
Like who?
So, I responded the way I responded, and she came back and she's like, I'm a coach too, and that's a really coach immature response. Good luck with your whiteness, as even you get taken down by your comrades who are part of a communist regime seeking to control everything. And I'm like, okay, crazy. Bye.
Bye.
You know what I mean?
She sounds like she needs to be coached.
Yeah, so you asked me, and it's really, I think it's about the energy behind it and the intent. You know what I mean? Like, if people know me, they know, number one, I'm wildly curious. Like, I want to know the why. Like, what's it rooted in? And then that helps me understand, and then that helps me respond to it. But if you don't know that, it could come off as offensive, which that's never my intention. But if you're bullshit, I'm going to call you out on your bullshit. Because I'm also a realist. Because listen, we have this much time on this planet, and I'm in a hurry to get you what you want. And if that's in the way, I'm going to be like, you're a racist.
That's the problem.
That's the problem. And if it's offensive to you, then we need to get to the root of why you're getting defensive. What is the why? Because what we know is that everything's a projection. And I talked about this on Instagram. Like, you can't fix the external forces, but you can fix the projector, right? So if you're getting offended by something external, you need to look inside yourself and say, okay, what is the open wound that I need to heal that's causing me to bleed all over everybody else? Because it's
Why am I
not
so offended by
right.
this?
Like, because it's not you or you. You don't have the power to make me feel that way. It's something that I haven't healed. So, did I go off on a tangent?
I don't know, but I'm so here. I'm like, go ahead, keep talking.
Are you following me?
So we were talking about that not too long ago, where you'll post something and someone will be like, "Are you talking about me?"
Right, like
You need to check yourself.
Right.
If you think I'm projecting to you.
Right.
No, I think you are like there's something in you.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And I only coach from my own life. Like, if I'm helping somebody with projections, I'll go back and be like, okay, this happened, and that was my projection, me putting my head trash on them. So obviously I need to take out my trash before I move forward. And that's always the issue. If you have a problem with corporate, like people dressing you down in front of other people, then it's not your problem, it's theirs.
it's their problem.
And the three of us talked about that on my podcast about bad bosses.
Oh, right.
And my thought really along that is a lot of times it's a situation where people just get complacent and lazy, where there's a problematic person and there's either too much paperwork or they don't want to deal with it. So it's kind of like You know those stories you hear about kids who can't read, and it's because the teacher is just like, see,
But somehow they graduated
right
high school and they can't read.
Behind.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh,
Bullshit.
yeah.
More bullshit.
Right, exactly. And it's take your job seriously as an educator, slow down and help that child.
It's like
because
for years, people ignored that problem.
right. So, you know, I hate to say this, but no, I don't. Stop being lazy.
Right.
Do your job.
Yeah. You're the educator. Do your job.
Educate. Because you know what? You don't know who the next Nelson Mandela is, the next Beyonce Knowles, like Cardi B. Like, they may be not be your ideal, like, fit in your
Perfect.
box, but they're the disruptors. They're the agitators that bring everything up to the surface, because you can't fix what you don't see. And hiding it and ignoring it is not the answer.
That reminds me of, so I'm reading Grit, the book Grit.
I haven't read it yet.
And it's
Is
so
it good?
Is
It
it?
talks about something, it starts off that way where she's mentioning a student who isn't seen as an A student because they don't do the A student things. They don't study for hours, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
They're not like
But-
that cookie cutter A student.
Exactly, but you don't understand that for a normal student's hour, that student has dyslexia, has to take several hours to read that and learn that and do that.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that that one student isn't going to surpass in some way, whether it's economically, whatever,
Right.
the other students that are around him or her. So that there was an example of a student who wasn't seen as, you know, the smartest, the brightest, but did continue because he had grit, he had perseverance, he had the passion, and became a rocket scientist, basically.
There you go.
Like,
And he was probably ignored year after
For
year after
years.
year
Yeah.
because those teachers didn't feel like dealing with it.
Yeah.
It was like, this is too much.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'd rather deal with the easy, quiet A student. Like, I literally just reposted something on Facebook, and it says something about, like, shout out to the teachers that said I always talk too much, because that was my report from school is she's a sweet girl, but she talks too much. And I'm
She
like, shout out.
disrupts class.
Right, exactly. Like, you could have put me in the corner. I would have been talking to the teacher. What you working on? Like, I'm a talker. That's what I do. I'm like, I like that you say that you're curious, because I always just say, like, I'm nosy by nature.
Yeah.
So this
You're
I just
curious.
want to
You
know.
wanna know.
I gotta
Yeah.
ask questions. So it says, shout out to the teachers that said I talk too much. I have a podcast now.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
thank you.
Well, and let's be clear. I'm not talking about the teachers who gutted it out and used grit year after year. Like, I keep thinking about the nurses. Like, there may be a nurse recently who's like, "Ugh, I'm just too tired. Well, I don't blame them,
Right.
because listen, leadership's about two things: energy management. Like, where am I putting my energy? Is it making a positive impact? Am I being drained by energy vampires, right? And the second one is emotional regulation. So, am I calm, clear, and collected so I can make a good decision for the greater good of all concerned? If you look at nurses right now, they're at negative, right? So when I work with my clients, I talk about having your cup full, right? And everybody's like, refill your cup. Well, I'm here to tell you, you should never have to refill your cup. Your cup should always be at 100. Everybody else gets your overspill. So hypothetically, let's give an example. Joss and I are walking down the street. You're operating at 85%. I'm at 115, and we bump into each other. You get my energetic overspill. So I'm still at 100, you're now at 100, and we build from there. So you should never get below 100, but I know our nurses, our healthcare providers, and shout out to my sister-in-law, Carrie, who is amazing. She's a nurse who worked in an assisted living facility. They're at energetic zero.
I can't imagine working in that environment.
I mean, and I'm so proud of her. She's one of the true heroes. I mean, she literally stopped the spread of COVID by using her common sense. You know, 2 of her patients who were elderly got COVID. She quarantine them in a wing, I guess, or a hallway or an area of the assisted living facility.
And sometimes they have like isolation rooms or whatever.
Right,
and
and she saved them. She saved they ended up passing away, but they were like in their 80s or 90s, so we don't know. That's the other thing we don't know.
She made her decision. She sprung into action. If
Right.
she would have been lazy and just said, all right, well, let me see what management's
All right.
going to tell me to do.
Yeah.
Let me sit back. That
Yeah.
could have been like spread throughout that entire facility.
And all of them could have been gone.
Yep.
So she saved the
Shout
entire.
out to Carrie.
Yes.
Amazing nurse.
Raise the glass to Carrie. Yes,
good
we
job,
love
strong
her.
work.
And all the other nurses that are quick thinkers, because here's what I know about nurses. And my primary care physician is, well, she's a nurse practitioner, and I picked that because I love you, doctors, but nurses seem to have better bedside manner. So, and now I'm never going to get service at any other hospital in Philadelphia. But I'm
I mean,
just
you're
saying,
just speaking facts. That's all.
yeah, and listen, my grandfather was a doctor. He was an old school doctor. He had a practice in his basement in Brooklyn, and like he would sit there and take notes longhand, and your first appointment would be an hour. And if somebody came late, he was like, "No, got to reschedule. You can't cut into my next patient's time." Like my grandmother would come down and change the linens. They had literal linens on these beds.
Oh, not
and-
those rolls. Those
Yes.
rolls of paper.
No. These were actual linens that she would change. So I don't know. I think, first of all, healing's in my blood. That would be the first thing.
Absolutely.
But also, I know that he was wildly successful, and he did it by doing the right thing and going above and beyond and making his patients feel special. So I think that nurses, maybe you remind me of my grandfather. Maybe. I'm a huge fan of nurses
And it's like,
and doctors, the good ones.
right, the good ones. Because I have a list of fabulous doctors that I absolutely adore. But from my primary care person, I chose a nurse practitioner
Me too.
because I know that person, even before becoming a nurse practitioner, their requirement is to be a nurse.
Yeah.
So they have had already hands-on experience,
Yeah.
bedside manner. They figured all that out.
Oh, yeah.
You start with a fresh doc, no shade, but you start with a fresh doc, you don't know what their other major was and what they fell into
Nope.
before they decided to go to medical school. Yes, in residency they have hands-on practice, but it wasn't their job.
Right.
It's just different. And nurses are taught to heal holistically, head
Yes.
to toe, internal and external factors, where doctors are like, what's the problem? This hurts, that's what I'm gonna treat.
Yeah.
Nurses treat the person.
Right. And you know what I found too, and help me with this, but DOs I find that are better for me. Like doctors, so I'm going to give a shout out to my gynecologist, Kate Stampler, who literally saved my life. You know, I mean, I was having I'm not going to get into details, but some female issues, and she sat with me for 45 minutes and she's like, here are our options, here's what's going on. And we made the best choice for me, but it was her taking the space to see me, listen to exactly what I was saying, and not
time.
right. So I think that's really important to distinguish people as doctors. But we went off on all crazy
That's
tangents.
fine.
It happens.
That's what we do.
Yeah. So what else do you want to know? What else can I help you with?
Another interesting question, at least I'm biased on my own questions.
Well, your questions are great.
Have you ever been ghosted professionally?
Oh yeah. Oh my God. So many times. Like just recently I had this woman, she's an executive for TD Bank. And by the way, you're not the America's most convenient bank. Okay. I'm just going to say that right now.
TD Bank. Sorry.
Get it together. I left you and went to Republic Bank for a reason. Get it together. Yes.
Look at
Yes, Bella. So there's this woman who's an executive. She's been following me for years on LinkedIn. She reached out to me. I always do a demo coaching session because coaching is one of those things where it's experiential, right? So it's almost like I'm taking you both shopping for BMWs, and I say to you, you can't test drive it. What?
Right.
You don't know what it feels like going around the curves. Coaching is the same thing. People, when you get a coach, regardless of it's me or hopefully Mel at some point or Joss, for her Beachbody, you want to make sure that you can be vulnerable with them. The chemistry has to be there. How do you discover that? Well, it's kind of like dating. You have to have. So I give this woman a coaching session. She's like, yes, absolutely. I'm going to sign this contract right away because I do have a contract and I do have a cancellation clause and all of that because the work I do is intense. Mm-hmm. You will get results if you put the work in, right? But along the path, sometimes things get intense, and sometimes people are like, yeah, peace out, I'm out.
Can't handle this
right?
too deep.
The contract is there to hold you,
Right.
to hold you there, right? To make sure that your fear, your ego doesn't hijack our process. So I don't hear from her, and I literally sent her the first invoice and the contract afterwards, because she's like, yes, 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 yes. 2 weeks go by. And she says to me, well, I'm talking to HR to see if I get reimbursed for that. I was like, that didn't come up in our discussion.
That's also not your
That's
problem.
Not my
I'm like,
problem.
not my problem.
Not my
sister. Like,
problem. So the next day, I get a huge task order to coach at the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Transportation, and FEMA. And I emailed this woman and I said, listen, this is not a sales tactic. This is serious. Like, my bandwidth is going like this. And if you want to get in, I need a signed contract today. And again, it's not crazy Eddie. I've got like all of these,
Right.
you need to buy this now. It was, if you want me to help you, you need to commit.
Right.
And I said that to her, and I said, if I don't hear from you by the end of the day, which was like a Friday, I'm going to void the contract. And I didn't hear from her, and I just voided the contract and moved on, because here's what I know. If you're, the strength of your belief and your faith will make it so, whatever you subscribe to, right? So I know, just based on the universe, God, whatever you subscribe to, what they have sent to me during the pandemic, because my business could have been dead, frankly. They sent me 200 high-ranking officers in the military who want to learn about emotional intelligence and emotional well-being. That kept my business alive.
Right.
And I know if that happened in that kind of crisis, it's going to happen anytime, as long as I believe and I'm grateful and appreciate and like all of that. So if I let her go, it's going to open up space for
Right.
somebody else for me to
She
help.
was in
So-
the way. She might have
Right.
been in the way of something bigger.
Right. So I would say for people who ghost you, try to practice the art of detachment, because as soon as you attach, that's when it closes up space and doesn't allow you to do the full extent of what you are called to do on this earth. And I know what you're called to do. I mean,
Right.
you both of you are powerful forces. I've seen it. I feel it right now.
We're so powerful, thank you.
No, you really are.
No, thank you,
It's not a
appreciate
joke. I mean, Joss, I see you working out every day. I see what you're doing. You're modeling the way of leadership, and that is what we need. We don't need this. We need, okay,
Action.
you want to see a leader? This is what it looks like.
Because you can
And you're
easily-
doing that. And you're doing that too. So,
You could easily say, "This is what I do," without showing it, and be
Right.
sitting
Right.
in your bed like snacking on bacon. Not that's what you're doing. That's probably what I'm
Tofu-
doing.
tofu
but
bacon.
tofu bacon. Sorry.
which is not bacon. I love you vegans, but that is not bacon. That's fakin'.
right.
That
I
is
like that.
faking. Like my chicken sandwiches.
We're
But you can
faking
be out
it.
there and saying like, "Go out there and do this, this, and this." You don't have to preach it
Right.
because you do it every
Right.
single day. People see you doing it. Like, I tell you, my morning routine is watching you do your morning routine. Like, all right, Joss is up. Let me get up and at least make a cup of coffee. Like, you keep me motivated.
Well, and we talked about that. So why don't we compare our morning routine?
Come back next week to figure out who does what during their morning routine, and did I ever get my morning routine life together?